Okay, so here we go. We have on the schedule you saw that we were going to have collaged greeting cards, and it's like whatever that could be, right? It could be anything. What I kind of thought that was be really fun this morning was I wanted to play with like really simple freeform shapes without any drawing at all, no measuring, just freeform shapes. So what you need to do this with me today, if you want to collage along, I'll tell you the supplies. So I'm putting these away just for now. And what we need is, we've been doing a lot of things with papers, right? We've been doing gelatin printing. We've got scraps and bits and pieces. We've got scrapbook paper. If you're anything like me, you have collected some decorative papers that you have been making yourself or you already have. So remember some of these, in our past classes. Anyway, I don't like to throw these away. What am I going to do with them? Well, we're going to make some collage cards. And this is where I don't even like throwing away my tiniest pieces. Like here's some little itty bitty pieces. I'm keeping those because I can always use those, and you can too. So what we have, just get together as many bits and pieces of decorative papers that you have, all different color ranges, solids, prints, whatever you have. And the other thing that I have is I just cut some Bristol board. You can even use an old greeting card that you're not going, like an old card that has a beautiful front, the already cardstock that you have, even postcards. This is just a base for me to do the collage on. Or the other thing is I have these little mixed media cards. They're made by Strathmore, and they're already scored and folded for you. Those are nice to have. This is called Mixed Media by Strathmore. Mixed media greeting cards, and I like them because they're already made. And all I have to do is create on them. That's one way you can do it. So we've got those, any kind of like any cardstock, something you can make as a base for your collage. Another thing is, if you remember, a couple of months ago, we did this collage torn paper. Do you remember that? And remember, I did a big scene, and I thought, what am I going to do with that thing? So what I did is I cut it down a little bit smaller than my mixed media greeting card. So I'm going to show you a quick way. This is super quick. So here I had that, this was a full-size picture. There it is. You can see, well, I don't know which side it went on, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So basically, I cut it with my paper cutter and trimmed it just a little bit under my mixed media card. So now I have, without that one thing we did together in class, now I have two cards. So I'd see that this card didn't fold straight. I don't know why it happens sometimes. It's probably because I folded it the wrong way. That happens. And that one's just not going to fold straight, so I'm not going to use that one. So this one's folding, that has a nice folded edge. And all I did with this is I just used some glue and cut it to the size that I wanted. And I'll show you how I did this one. Maybe not, I'll wait for a minute because I have I want to show you the other stuff too. But so just now I have two cards out of that one exercise, and this is a nice card. It kind of looks like an ocean scene. That's really simple. So you don't need to watch me glue. That's kind of boring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I make these little fun little whimsical collages out of my scraps, and then adding just a little glitter has now made it into a holiday card. This is on the post or on the Bristol card here, and I just trimmed it down after I collaged it. This is I did it directly on the greeting card. So we're going to start just by doing it on a piece of paper like this. So what you want to do is kind of decide on a theme. Okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to do a scene, kind of like similar to this. What you want to do is start with the background paper first, and then we're going to build our scene going forward. So I have to think about my background, like what kind of background am I going to have? I'm thinking this would be a fun background. So that's a nice large piece of paper. So I'm going to probably use that. It looks very holiday-like because it's got some glimmer to it. But you can kind of decide what you want your background to be. Here's another piece of paper that I could also use as a background because it's kind of simple. Yeah, I like that one better. But really, it's just a matter of, maybe that's what probably takes the longest is trying to figure out the background size or any of these, just the paper selection. So you can also decide if you want it to be a portrait card or a landscape, composition. So I'm going to cut this piece of paper, and this is actually, I think I'm going to zoom my camera out a little more so you can see a little better. Needs to get a little farther out so you can see. That's as far as it's going to go, I think. Okay. So I'm going to move this out of the way so I can see what we're doing together. Okay. All right, so let's cut this down to the size that I originally had. So this is a nice little set. I forgot how I did this. Okay, here we go. I like this little thing because it has a little guide. So I'm going to cut this to be the same size. So whatever this size is, which is it's a little under 5 and a little under 7. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, let's see, the 5 by 7. Let's see, I'm just going to do it. Take my little, move that out of the way, not thinking too much. I think the more I think, the crazier it gets. And I'm noticing that this cutter leaves a soft, like a fuzz, because this was a rice paper. So all, papers are going to be different. And so just kind of have that in mind. If you're using rice paper, it's going to leave a little fringe. So if you're not using rice paper, it should just cut normally. So that's why I have different paper cutters in my possession, because each one behaves differently. So this is going to be my background. So doesn't matter what you use, you just pick something that's going to kind of work as maybe a sky, or if you're doing an underwater scene or whatever. So first thing to do is I'm going to just glue the background on. Now there's different ways I could do this. It's not perfectly straight, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to trim it. What you'll need is something to glue on. Like I'm going to just use some of this deli wrap so I don't get my table messed up. And there's a really nice way to glue large pieces, or if you just have a glue stick, that's fine. I've got glue sticks, I've got white glue. I'll show you my little way that I like to glue large areas. Glue sticks are great for small bits. White glue, if you have that, is good for larger areas. So I'm going to take this paper, and I've got the back side, and I'm just going to spread a little white glue on it, not too much, but I want to get enough on there. And then I'm going to take this is an old card, well, it's supposed to be a credit card, but an old card, credit card, hotel key, whatever you've got, something nice and plastic. This is going to spread the glue on nice and evenly and thinly. So just something like that is all you need to get the glue on. I don't think I put enough on that corner, so I'm just going to add a little to that. So using your little spreader is really handy. So save your hotel keys if you've got them. Now this is a very thin piece of paper, and I'm just going to lay it on top of my card. And I don't really care if it's perfectly centered because I'm going to trim it later anyway. So now another thing that's a nice trick is if you have a glue like this, I'm going to grab another piece of paper, one of my this stuff here, which is really handy to have, the cabinet wax or wax paper, anything like that you have. I like to try to reuse mine if I can. I'm just going to lay it over, and I think you probably have seen me use this Baron before, but if you don't have a Baron, that's okay. Just use your hands to spread that glue onto the card or the backing. And that's really going to fuse the glue to the papers. And even if you don't have one of those, just use your hands, use your fingers, and really press it in, maybe moving from the center, moving outwards. So now I've got my first layer, my background. And I love that just by itself. I think that's pretty. And this was a gelatin printed with watercolor. If you remember, we did watercolors with jelly printing. Oh, somebody's coming in. Oh, Wanda, we had lost her. Okay. Hi, Wanda. Glad you're back. So I'm now that this is dry. See, as long as it's dry, it's gonna be fine. I can still use that. And I don't like to waste paper, so I'd like to save it. So next step is some kind of horizon. So I'm going to do like a little mountain horizon. And so what I need to do is I need to decide on a piece of paper that's going to be the horizon. And it's got to be as wide as this, since I am doing the landscape. Now, if I was doing the portrait style, which I could do that too, I'm going to do the landscape because I think it's more fun. So I'm going to just lay it like this. And then the hard part is finding a piece of paper that I'm going to like as my foreground, or whatever this is called. Now, I could use some white paper and it would almost look like snow if I wanted to do a holiday. If you remember, this is some marbled paper. So I'm just going to look for a bigger piece of paper that has like a print to it. So I'm got to go through my pile, and I'm seeing I've used this before, and I kind of like it because I'm getting a horizon, but it's not a big difference in contrast. So I could decide to use that. I could decide to use this one, which I think that might be kind of fun. I'm going to just do that. So I'm going to trim it to be exactly the same width. So I'm going to go ahead and use my trimmer, and it was a little under 7 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that under 7 inches. Get that, and then I'm going to also decide what I'm going to do is use some scissors, because in this thing I want to add some free form kind of shape to it. So here I'm going to just kind of do a mountainy kind of just an irregular mountain shape, or to kind of look like, and I can always use this one too. I'm not wasting it. I'm going to also use this one for a second card, or I can use whatever one I want. So I think I'm going to use this one. Changing my mind. So I'm just going to just trim this off. And the most important part is that my sides are pretty close to being even. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use, with this one, I think I'll use the same thing, the white glue, because the white glue, it's a bigger piece. And then I'll start using so I'll just go ahead and use this. I'll start using, when I get to smaller pieces, the glue stick. So the same thing, I'm going to take my little card. And really, your glues go a long way when you do it this way. And you can just kind of see, you get a nice coating on all of the areas, on all the edges. This piece of paper I'm just noticing is rice paper as well. And your rice papers are thinner, but they are much more fibrous, so they're going to go on really nicely. They're great for collage. If you don't have rice paper, any of your papers will work. So I'm just got enough, I think, on there. If I need to get those edges right on. And now I'm going to take it and I'm going to pick it up and move this out of the way so I'm not getting glue everywhere, which happens. All right. There, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to put it on the bottom of my card. And just going to lay that down and do the same thing. Burnish it down. And you'll notice your paper may start to bow. It's going to start to bow. Your card will bow because it's getting moisture on it. No worries. Just once it's all done, you can lay it on something heavy, and it will lay flat. So the next piece. So now I've got my sky. I've got my horizon or my mountain or whatever that is, my landscape. And now I have to make a house. I want to make the house shape. So let's see, what can I use? I'm going to go into my little bits here. I see colors, I can just decide what I want my house to be. I think that's a fun color. I can use either that one or that one, doesn't matter. And I'm just going to quickly cut this little part off. And I'm going to cut this part off because I'm going to save these bits because I can use them. I'm even going to save that because I can use that. And I'm going to decide how big I want the house to be. So if I bring the house to about this level, I need a roof. So I'm going to just I'm going to cut off even more. So it's a little rectangle. And that's going to be the house. I can go narrow, I can go, I think I'm going to go ahead and do wide this time. And then I'm going to make a roof for it. We got somebody, oh, Cheryl's coming in. Cool. And now I'm going to make a roof. So I've got another little piece that looks, I think needs to be more contrasty. So in this part, when you're starting to figure out your bits and pieces, this is fun. I like that orange. I'm going to go ahead and trim off this to make it skinnier. So it's really a fun, you just make this, like it's a very free-for-all design. So I've got this part. Now I'm going to take, I'm going to make a roof. So I'm just going to cut like a little roof. And I can decide right now how high I want the roof. And if it's not, there we go, just a shape. And I don't want to be too picky about what I'm doing as far as, oh, it's not perfectly triangle. The more wonky these are, I think the more interesting. Now, another thing you could do, and I didn't do this with my other ones, but I'm going to show you that you can. Let's say you want to give your pieces dimension. You can always take a stamp pad and just gently line it. You can even kind of go in a little bit to give it like a depth. It kind of finishes it off a little bit. It's just another little, if you have a stamp pad laying around, a black stamp pad, that's all you need. I used to have tons of colors of stamp pads, and now it's like I just have black and a brown color, and I really just love that. So now I'm able to get a nice edge on that. I'm going to set that aside as I'm getting all my little pieces together. Now this one, I actually am making it on purpose. I've kind of rubbing it into the stamp pad because I want that edge to be more defined. So I'm kind of just rubbing that edge into it. So you can do that. If you don't have a stamp pad, you can just use acrylic paints. So here's my house. I'm just getting the bits together. I got this part, and I'll work on the window and everything else later, but at least I've got that. So, and this thing is curling, but that's, like I mentioned before, is normal. It's going to curl for a little bit until everything gets put together. So I've got those backgrounds. Now I'm going to start using a glue stick. And I'll go ahead and get some little glue on the back of this and a little bit of glue on the back of that. And this time you could use the white glue too, but glue sticks are quicker on the smaller pieces and it's less messy. And glue sticks, by the way, there's so many different brands, but the Yulu by far is the most wonderful. So I'm just going to put my little house right here, and I can decide where I want to place it, but I'm just not going to think too much about it. I think it's more fun to just watch it kind of come together. This is like a impressionistic, not impressionistic, spontaneous landscape. We're not planning anything. And I can decide where I want, okay, my roof's going to be here, and I can make it straight or perfectly or wonky, whatever I want. Yeah, slightly wonky. So there's my little house roof. And I love the little black edge. I think that really made a huge difference with it compared to the other ones I did. So if you can do that, that's great. So it's kind of a snowy, you've got like a snow theme going on because of that. It's just nice to have that contrast. So now I want to make some trees. So I've got these little bits here. Oh, I know what I need. I forgot. I need to still work on the house. So I'm going to make a window. Okay, so I've already got a piece cut out, but I just cut out some black origami paper. Whatever you've got, I cut out a little rectangle. Well, let's find another piece just for fun. I'm going to do, here's one that's a little bigger. So I have basically making a layer. And I've got, oopsie. Sorry about that. I got to turn off my, my phone's ringing. There we go. Okay. So I've made cut a little rectangle. This is for the window or the door, whatever it could be. And maybe a door would be fun. So that would be the front door. And then I could make little windows, which I think would be fun. Let's see. Little windows. Here we go. Out of the black paper, I just had a little bit of black scrap paper. I'm going to just make small windows, like I'm not measuring, I'm just kind of cutting them out. And I think that just the more imperfect they are, the more fun. I think that needs only one window, just one. So got the door, got a window, and I'm gonna cut another piece of that little, wherever that paper is. If I have some, I can certainly cut some more out of this. I'm gonna cut the window piece to be just a little bigger than the window itself. And now I'm gonna just go ahead and, same thing, glue them down. Okay, so getting the little bits here. I'm going to first glue these pieces first, the backgrounds. So you can see what we're doing. We're building from the background, moving up, which is kind of what you do in a landscape anyway, I think, right? So I've got my background, where I've got my little door opening, but I'm going to just give it a little contrast by adding that black bit of paper, and I'm going to have to let my cat out because she's having a little fit. Well, you can sit down, Tails. Sit down. Sit. Go sit down. Okay. My little old kitty, she's just forgets sometimes where she's at. Okay, so now I've got that little bit, and then I'll just take a little glue stick and put on another little bit. This would look really cute afterwards. I could decorate it with markers if I wanted to add a little more, but I think that's fun just like that. And now I'm going to add some trees. So I've got this beautiful little house. I can add a little chimney if I want let's see, to add a little chimney, I could take a bit of the different color or the same. And what I could do to add that chimney is I could just trim it. Can make it a long chimney or a short chimney, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to just cut that angle, and then I'm going to just glue it like that. So that can give it a chimney. So it gets more fun the more details you add, the little bits that you change up. If you change the colors up a little bit, you'll get your little collage version. It's going to be so different. Each one is different. So now I've got my chimney. Let's see what else we're going to have. Oh, trees. We want trees. The landscape won't be complete without the trees. So now I could do white trees, which would maybe be kind of fun, or the green trees. That's a tough call. And I'm going to go ahead and stick with the green because it just adds more contrast. So I'm just going to cut little tree shapes. I mean, nothing fancy, just more wonky the better. The more goofball they are, I think they look better. So here's one there, and this one needs a little trim there, and then that needs a little there, like that. So I'm kind of putting up like that, and I'm going to go ahead and put them on now that I've sort of given them a placement. They don't have to be exactly where they were, just kind of a general idea. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the little guy. You can see how it's so much better to use a glue stick for these little tiny bits, because it can be frustrating trying to glue large pieces. Yeah, we go. And then the third. So I've got these 3 trees lined up, and they're all a little off, which just makes it even more fun. And now, let's see what else I can do. Is even the more details you add, the more fun these become. So I could do another little tree back here, or I can do a little wonky moon. I think what I'd like to do is take this white paper, and I'm going to cut kind of a circle, but it's not a circle. It's just I'm just going to make an imperfect circle by going around, and so because if it was a perfect circle, it would look too weird compared to the rest. Oops, now it's going to get smaller. There we go. So there's my little wonky moon shape, and I could put it here. Just I have to decide where I want it. I think it's fun over on the right side. I'll just lay that down with some glue stick. There we go, like that. And I could add trunks. I could do all kinds of things like that. So kind of now at this point, I think I'll do a little layering, and I'll show you what I mean. The more details you get, like the little bits that you saved, like this has a little piece of gold paper that I had, and I'm just going to put it kind of maybe right where the stair would be. So just keep layering, and you can add stairs, you can add a little flower pot, you can just keep going, but just keep them simple and basic, and then it will be a lot more fun. There you go, like that. So I just got a little piece of textured gold paper there. And what I might do is, just for fun, I'm going to add little trunks, because I have this little tiny bit of paper that sort of matches that. And I'm just going to cut some trunks, little small trunks for the trees. Little bits, and that really adds to the finished piece. Now I've got tiny bits. So now probably good if you had a pair of tweezers, or just have to use your fingers to get these on. But take your glue stick and just pick it up and peel it off. And then now I've got a silly tree trunk, which I like because it looks really odd. And normally I'm such a perfectionist, so it's kind of fun to do something that's not perfect, and it makes it much more whimsical. Here's my other tree. I'm going to get it so that it goes up to right to the edge of the tree base. And here, the same third one, I'll do the same. Just going to slide it up. Tweezers, if I had my tweezers close by, I'd be working with those, but I don't have them close. So there they are. So now I've got the little trunks, and really by that self, I love this. I think I'm going to leave that alone. And then if you want to, you can add a little stardust or sparkle, especially if you're going to do this, give this away for the holidays. Add a little glitter glue, just little bits. I'm not trying to do too much, but just enough to let those trees stand out a little bit more. And just kind of, this is called stardust is the name of that. And I have to wait for this the glitter glue to dry before I put these there. You can see it's there. Now to add details to the windows, if you wanted, we're going to keep in tradition of, we're just doing paper only. We're not going to be drawing anything in, but you could draw things in if you wanted. So for the window trim, I see this nice little piece of paper, so I'm going to cut some really thin strips here, really thin, like that. And that's some Gelli printed paper that I did, last year, I think. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little, I'm going to do it on this one. That's the window. I'm just going to put a little bit in this, just a little bit, crisscross. This is where I need tweezers. All right, I'm going to pick it up with my, oh, that's pretty. I think I might just do that. Stick it on my glue stick. Same with the other one. I'm just going to stick it right on the glue stick. Like that. I'm trying not to get too much glue on my hands because I don't like having glue on my hands, but if you have a baby wipe close by, that's handy too. I'm just going to put this right, whoops. There we go, just get it on there. So the little details are going to just make this more fun. Little tiny details like that. So now my window has some detail. Now I could make a little, for the door, I could do that again, or I could take, maybe just to kind of look like a doorknob, I'm going to just cut a tiny piece for that doorknob. So little. Just going to pick it up with my glue stick and get the glue on there, and then there's the door knob. That's how simple that is. I didn't labor over it. I didn't use a hole punch. I could have used a little tiny hole punch, those little office hole punches, and that would look good too. So after this dries, I'm going to press this in, I'll put it between two sheets or something, and then I'll press it in my book press. And then after it's dry, I'm going to trim that edge, and make it into a card or a postcard, or it's a little painting. I mean, you could frame these. I think these are really fun. You could do all kinds of things with it. So that's with the card. And to do the same thing on the postcard, or I'm sorry, on the regular card, I'll show you how I did that. So I'm going to set this one aside, hopefully to dry, so you can see the next thing. Okay, next step, or next one. I'm going to use this piece because I thought that was pretty. Or actually, no, I'm going to change my mind. Let's see, what can I do? I'm going to get my card so I can see what I'm working with. So here, if I do it straight on this card, I can just paste this right on. So I'm going to do that. This is a nice, beautiful background. It's a watercolor wash that we did. So I'm just going to use my glue. This time I'm going to use this glue here, since it's a large piece, and I'm going to spread it. And I think this is the card that didn't fold right. No, it's folding okay. That's fine. Don't want the one that's folding crummy. These are going to be the best holiday cards. And also, if you just don't want to put anything holiday on it, that would be a great, if you were sending a card to someone who just moved to a new address, or, you just want to say, I'm thinking of you, from my house to yours. I mean, there's so many things with this kind of home, like a home motif that really can be used for generic cards. It could be also as a birthday card if you wanted it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and use my little Baron to smooth that out. Now I've got the base of my card started. Now the trick on this one, differently than the other one that I was telling you about, is now I have to measure from here to here. I have to know that size. So when I put the foreground on and I start to build, especially the foreground, it's probably the only one that matters. I can see I didn't get all of the glue on this one edge. So there's a way to kind of get that to happen. I take a little bit extra glue right on my card, and I'm going to lift the edge, and I'll be able to put it down. So yeah, if you don't get all of the edges, you don't want little edges flaring up or coming up, but you can always fix those. The next step is to get the foreground, and what I need is something big enough. Oh, I think this will be fun. No, this has got to be at least, so how I'm going to measure that is I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm going to pinch it with my finger so I know where that is, or I can take a little pencil and mark it so I know that's the edge, and then I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to go ahead and just trim it wherever I drew that. There it is. Okay, right there. And I'm going to save every little bit other pieces that I have. And I'm going to I'm going to make another one. Come on, Tails, come over here. I'm just going to decide where I want my horizon to be. So I'm going to have it kind of lower this time. I'm going to just go like here in this part. I'm making like a hill. I think I'm going to make a house on the hill. There we go, like that. So now I've got this kind of hill shape. I'll save this for another hill. And now I can just glue that right on top, and it just fits perfectly in that spot. So this same thing, I'll take my glue spreader and my little glue. Whoops, it's getting pretty heavy, covered with glue now. And then just make sure all the edges are covered. That's got a lot of glue on this one, but that's okay. It'll really be sticky. And just place it down and line it up to your sides and move it if you can reposition. If not, it's stuck where it's going to be stuck. Okay, and now same thing, take the Baron and really burnish that down. So now I've got a whole landscape, beginning of a landscape, and then now it's just building a house, making the little house. Again, just cutting out a piece that looks like it would be a fun house, like this blue looks really fun. Or I can use this color. I think it's a tough call. Or it's the fun part is building the house. I do like this brown color. I think that's amazing, especially with that little bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and trim off the little excess here. And then I have to decide how tall I want my house. So, and how skinny. Do I want it skinny or do I want it tall? I'm just going to go ahead and cut that off and use that for something else. And then maybe I'll just trim off a little like this, using that paper for something else. There's the house. That's the house. I like that shape. I think it's nice and lots of contrast. And then I could do a blue roof, which I think would be really pretty. So I'll use that for the roof, which I'll go ahead and do it now. I'll cut at an angle, and I can have to decide how tall or how, here we are, like that. I could bring that down like that. So there, that'll work. And I can save these little parts because I'll need those later. And I can also, if I decide I want to make it a little less of a pitched roof, I'm just going to cut these a little bit more. I'm leaving the width, the base of it, the same. So I've got this here like that. Now I think it'd be fun too. This is the fun part because you're not wasting any paper. You're going to use it for other things. I've made that house just a little more narrow. And I can make it come on this side, or I can do it again on this side. I do like it on the left side. I think that's more fun. So I'm going to go ahead and start gluing the pieces down. So basically this one's going directly on the card. So, you know, really you just need to measure, these edges, and that's the rest you don't need to. Just going to put that right here like that. And then I have to decide which side do I want, this side or that one. I like that one. So it's so much fun to use your bits and pieces in your little scrapbook page. If you have like scrapbook pieces that you think they're really interesting. Oops, you know what I forgot to do is the black edge. Oh well, that's okay. I forgot to do the black edge. If you don't have stamp pad and you didn't do the edge, that's okay. It still looks fun. I think I'm going to try to do the black edge going forward because I think those are so much fun. So I've got the that, and now I'll make a little cute little, let's see. Out of this, I think I want to make the chimney. Just going to make a chimney, and I can make it as wide or as, I'm just going to cut it at an angle, and I don't really care. It's just going to look great. There it is, like that. It's just very free and easy. And I could maybe add some more little details to the to this, but I think just lining it up right on top of that, and there it is. Oops, it's got a squish. I didn't line it up. I got to push it in a little bit there. So you can see how we can just keep building the landscape. I've got the basic layout of this one, and then I can make trees, or I could make, if I don't want to do trees. Of course, I like the trees, but I can do another little house. Like, that would be a fun thing. Let's say you want to do something about, you want to have a second house. You can do that, like have a little, a little second house with a little roof. I mean, there's so many options. You could make a little cityscape by adding little bits, of look like buildings. So there's all kinds of things. I haven't thought about doing anything other than like geometric stuff, but you could do animals, or you could draw animals. You could make paths. It's just lots of fun, and have fun making your little houses and your little fun little landscapes, and just trying different textures. Like there's this paper I've had for years. I've been holding on to it. I love this paper. I'm going to put that somewhere in there just because it's such a pretty, gorgeous paper. And it's nice to see your little bits of papers that you've used over the years, putting them to use. I'm just going to finish that down. But I'm going to wait to finish that one because I want to see how everybody's doing on theirs. Where hopefully, I think this one's fun. Now that one's not dry yet. I thought it was. And what I'll do is I can't use my paper trimmer that I am using. I'll just use a guillotine cutter to trim that edge, and then I'll flatten it and put it in on a card. I think that one's really gorgeous too. So I'd love to see what everybody's doing, and I'm going to stop the recording.